I think I'm muted over here. Okay. So welcome. What we do is we just chat with what's going on with ourselves, what's going on in the world of what we do. And we are committed to you learning to prioritize yourself, save time, and achieve your goals. That is what we're about. That she and I are moms, and we're in that stage in life where our kiddos are, in the not the quite upper high school grades, but they're in school, right? And they're Alegre homeschools, and my kids go to public school. And so we're not in that, wiping butts and changing diapers phase. So once that phase sort of took a back seat and just faded away, both of us really on our own and then collectively together took a look at, hey, what's going on with us that we've been maybe putting ourselves second, third, fourth, probably. And what can we do now to prioritize ourselves? And, you've heard it a million times before. I'm sure if you're a mom or a caregiver, you've heard about self-care, you've heard about putting your oxygen mask on first so that you can be helpful to others. So you can be, and one thing I do want to say is that that's a really good adage, right? The whole idea of putting the oxygen mask on you first so that you can help others. But really, honestly, you put that oxygen mask on first to help yourself first. Don't start contextualizing self-care as oh, therefore, then I can be even more for my family. I can be there more for my neighbors, which 100%, be of service to the degree that you want to be of service, but understand first that oxygen mask is for you. It's not just for put this on so then I can be available to everyone else again, right? So that self-care is not just for okay, let me just quickly get my needs met so that I can be there for everyone else again. We're talking really about self-care as healthcare, which if you've joined us before, you've heard us say this a bazillion times before, self-care is healthcare. And burnout is a real thing. Excuse me. Mom burnout in the United States is extraordinarily high. It's very high because of things like the mental load, the invisible work that is done, the fact that not only are a lot of moms either having a job outside the home or work from home, so are one of the income earners, but then also a good majority of the household obligations, visible and invisible, fall to the female in the relationship. And I'm talking a heteronormative situation, but in general, moms in the United States are experiencing tons of burnout, and especially moms that work outside the home. And by the way, also, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you don't work outside the home and you're not working from home too, burnout's a real thing for you too, and self-care is a real thing for you too. You're not doing nothing, right? I just read this meme. Is it a meme? I don't know. I read something. I don't know. I read a post somewhere where the description is this dad comes home from a long day at work and he steps over all the cornflakes all over the floor and the couch cushions turned upside down. The kids are covered in mud. The dog has traipsed the mud through the house. There's just the plant pot fell over, blah, 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 all this stuff. The house is a disaster. And he makes his way to the bedroom and his wife is in bed, reading a magazine and just chilling. And he's like, oh my God, what happened? She's like, how you ask me every day, what did I do all day? She's like, well, today I didn't do it. Right. So, stay-at-home moms are also the unsung heroes too of the way that the world works. There's this great book that Alegre had hit me to. And if you joined us before if you're one of our alums, this is on one of our suggested reading lists. It's a book called Pay Up. And it really does break down the financial contribution that the unpaid work of mothers in this country provide, right? All the so much of healthcare, mental health, and then just the way that the world works. We're talking from way back when, not just the modern day, but from way back when. Of course, dynamics were different and women did not work outside the home. But even when women did step outside the home post World War II, and oddly enough, women went back into the home once World War II was over. But then, of course, there was a resurgence again later in the 70s, women working outside the home. The almost incalculable contribution that women have made to the overall financial stability of the United States as a superpower, as a financial or as one of the, the richest countries in the world, unsurprisingly is, or maybe invisibly, also on the backs of the American woman. That's not necessarily what I was going to talk about today. I just kind of got on my soapbox about it. Pay up if you get a chance to, if you're looking for something to, Allegra's watching. Hi, Allegra. Thanks. She popped in our website there, bywdreams.com. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you can find us on all our socials at bywdreams. Get a chance to, if you're looking for something to read right now and you want to understand female place inside of the United States economy, and also just why it is imperative that there is a way for women to be supported, and that could be through public health, childcare, like huge childcare programs that just were like super duper popular during World War II, that just got completely walked back, even though it was really, really popular, obviously, and people loved it, and the kids were well cared for, and kids did really thrived, because at that time the US was at war and men were off at war, and women needed to be in the factories making the war things, so they needed childcare. Well, lo and behold, somehow the United States was able to pull that off, and the war ended, and they were like, all right, ladies, get back in your house and take care of these kids, But there are a lot of other industrialized nations, first world nations, as they say. I'm not sure that's the best phrase for that, but industrialized nations that have state supported or government supported or even completely subsidized childcare. And it works out well. But I'm not going to get into a political diatribe right now about, universal childcare, healthcare, public universities, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole nother story. Today is October 19th. Do your kids have their Halloween costumes? Is that something that you already locked down? If not, are you stressing about what they're going to be? Or, does your kid change their mind every 5 seconds? Last week, Allegra and I were lucky enough to be on the Nikki Madero radio show, which is a live radio show Monday through Friday. Nikki is in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she has a live show Monday through Friday. Currently, her show is live on YouTube during that time. And we got to talk about those Halloween costume situations where maybe your kid's one of those kids who changes their mind every 5 minutes, and that is 100% what my kids were. And we have a family policy that my older son, his birthday is on the 13th of October, and that may even seem late to lock it down, but by then you have to make your choice at that point. I tried to do it earlier in the month. I tried to do it like by October 1st. But my youngest kid, he just keeps changing his mind. And so he didn't now. So now he got his costume in the mail yesterday. We do like to make a lot of our own costumes, but my kids are definitely in this phase right now, especially the younger one, where he wants store-bought. He doesn't want, some janky cardboard thing that mom's made. It's much cooler to get like the store-bought Wolverine claws than this hot glued thing that mom put together. And he got the blow-up alien costume where the kid is the kid, but his legs are the alien. The top half of him is a person, and the rest of it's, inflated, and this big green alien. It's basically called the alien abduction costume. I saw it last Halloween. Very funny. He is getting a huge kick out of it. Our dog was super confused and very scared. He was like, what's that? Super concerned that Ethan was being picked up by this big green man. It's pretty hilarious. But if you don't yet have your kids' costumes, and you find that you have kids who keep, Allegra can join. Please join. Yes, do it. Go live. Don't yet have their costumes. What do you usually do? You can go ahead in the comments. Are you the kind of family that we love to go ahead and do it? We like to go DIY, or do you like to, go ahead and purchase something? So, hey, Allegra's here. So if you're with us on Facebook and YouTube, you won't see Allegra, but I will just turn up my volume on my Instagram so you can hear her, all y'all. Yay. So how are things going over there?
So I'm on jury duty, and I'm actually on a jury. And today in California is the Great Shakeout.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So because of that, we got dismissed for a bit. So
gotcha. So if you don't know, the Great Shakeout is basically earthquake preparedness, the whole state. You're supposed to. Yeah, it's an annual earthquake preparedness drill for the whole state. You're supposed to go ahead and enact what you would do where if you were in an earthquake, and clearly you would go to your car and sit in a parking garage, right?
Right. I like, thank God we were dismissed, because what are we doing? We're all running towards the judge's bench. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. Did they say that? Did they explain it to you? Because like,
no, they said we have some things trying to tell us what to do, but apparently some procedural thing happened that pushed back anything that we could be a part of.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
here
you are.
Whole not saying anything thing is not natural to me. So I'm just like, trying not to say anything, because it's just easier to say absolutely nothing.
Totally. Yeah. Can't open that can of worms. So I was just kind of sharing about, I know that your family puts like a deadline on picking your Halloween costume at a certain time. Yeah. We do our deadline on the 13th, which is my older son's birthday, which can feel kind of late. Although both my kids picked them before the 13th pretty easily, although my younger son was back and forth between a penguin and like a really, really scary guy. And then he landed on an alien abduction costume, which is pretty hilarious. And he thinks it's
can't wait to see the alien abduction.
Oh my God. So awesome. It's so funny. And he just, the thing is that he thinks it's so cool. And that's the cutest thing. Cause he just like looks in the mirror and he's like, this is so cool. This is so cool. You know what I mean? It's just, it's the cutest. Send me a picture. I will. I'll send you a video. The dog was freaking out. The dog was like, what is that thing? It's carrying him. What's happening? Like he was very like, he didn't like it. As you can imagine.
We talk about this in our newest book, Rock Your Holidays, right? About setting a day to have the last day that they can change their mind, so that you're not buying costumes all throughout the month of October, right? When I was a new mom, I would buy multiple costumes because I didn't realize that I could say, no more costumes.
Totally.
And so now the first week of October is our cutoff.
Yeah. And what we had done before we set the date of my son's birthday was, because, seriously, Costco puts out their costumes, in August. So,
right, August.
So he would go in August and be like, I want to be a ninja, right? So we'd get that costume and I would say, you get one return. You can change your mind one time. Like once we return this and get a different one, that's it. That's your costume, and lo and behold, he would use it. He would use that one return, not every year, not every time, but you get, especially they make their decision in August. By the time October rolls around, they've had 17 other ideas.
Right. And they've worn the costume probably a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
Too. So they're like, and here's the thing is, we don't recommend that you just set a date willy-nilly. Mm-hmm. When you set the date, say to your kid, look, mommy or daddy, whichever of you is buying the costume, it takes time for mommy and daddy to get the parts, for things to get shipped. We have to spend money. There's a lot that you don't see in putting together your costume. And so I'm just asking for you to decide by this date so that mommy can do it or daddy can do it in a way that is not stressful, because you don't like it when mommy is stressful, was stressed out.
Absolutely.
And I think kids respond very well to logic. I think that too often we confuse efficient communication with effective communication, right? I coach public speaking, and I tell people all the time, just because it's easy for you to say, because I said so, right? Which was what I was told constantly as a child. Mm-hmm. That's efficient communication. That's not effective communication, because no one likes being told, I told you so.
Right.
So it takes a little more time to be effective and give the reasons why, but it works so much better.
Kids really do love knowing why it is the case, right? And I used to think like, oh, my boys they love a surprise. I'm going to pick them up from after school and be like, we're going to go somewhere. They want to know, like, especially, I don't know if this is the truth with the case with every kid, but like, I used to think like, it would be so much fun to just show up at wherever we were going to go to, like, a friend's house for a play date or whatever, that kind of thing. And have them be surprised, but they want to know what the details are. Where are we going? Like, I thought I was going home and maybe, chilling out on the couch or whatever, that kind of thing. And same thing with this, giving them a reason. Plus, anytime, so we talk about this in our book too, Rock Your Holidays, that like often as the mom or primary caregiver, the magic making winds up being your responsibility. but in the places where you can like maybe like just leave some of that magic, like how the costume happens, you know what I mean? Like this is not a, you know, a holiday elf bringing something magically under, you know, if that's what you're into, you can peel back some of that magic when they're old enough to understand, hey, this takes time, it takes work, right? It doesn't just magically appear in your closet. We don't just, you know, things happen, and it costs money. And not to put pressure on the child, but just also to have them understand, like, oh, there's a lot happening here that seems like, oh, my clean socks just appear in my room. You know, I put them in this basket and then they show up in my drawer clean. You know what I mean? Like peel back some of the curtain to show them what happens, right? How it works and that kind of thing. And then of course, age appropriate, you know, you can involve them in some of those tasks, but, you know, so that, like, cause this year I said, my son finally was like, I want that alien thing. So I was like, all right, great. Let's sit down and look at Amazon and let's see which one you like. Right. And I said, let's read some reviews. Let's see if people, you know, like that kind of thing, to just see, you know, cause some of them were like, oh, the fan broke, you know what I mean? Like, and some were like, well, you will do that one, you know? I was like, well, yeah, I was just trying to, I had him. Yeah, right. Exactly. So it was like, we read some reviews, we take a look at the, you know, like how, like, yes, it says it's $35, but oh, the shipping is $9.95. Like just kind of, you know, bringing him in on the process. And then when it came, you know, when it came, he was like, Dad, he put it on. He's like, this is a 5-star review costume, Dad. And like, the fan doesn't break on this. And then we also read a comment too, where they were like, my grandson got this, and then he blew it up and then he flopped on the couch and it popped, you know? So like so you can find some good information in those reviews sometimes, you know? So just peeling back the curtain and taking some of the mystery.
Life skill you're teaching him right there.
For sure.
How to evaluate.
Yes. And I was thinking of recently, like one of the tasks that I read in a parenting blog or article, I don't remember now, about like having your kid plan a meal, right? And have them plan it, budget it, and even like sit down with maybe your app if you shop on an app, if you don't want to, or go into the grocery store, one of those two, but like seeing like, what do we have in the pantry? Oh, we do need olive oil, you know, that kind of thing. And having the kid, and then, you know, budget it and see, and then so not just make it, not just decide what it is and you go get the groceries, but involve them in all those steps. Because if they don't see that, it magically just shows up on their dinner plate, right? Or even if they see you cooking and maybe you have them join you in cooking and that kind of thing. But like what it takes to get the food into the fridge to make, you know, and what decisions have to be made and blah, blah, blah. And that's a multi-step process. And that, you know, the sooner you can kind of like get them in on that process, the easier it'll be for them later to be able to, what, you know, sometimes as adults, you're just kind of like, well, duh, how else did you think it'd get here? Right. Cause it just seems obvious to us. Right. Yeah. We have to remember that, no, this is totally new. This is totally new to them.
No, I'm constantly, and that's something that I realized around the time my daughter was 4 or 5, was that I tend to be a very quiet person in my day-to-day. Like some people kind of talk through their day. I don't talk through my day. I don't listen to music. I can be very silent going about my day. And I realized, oh, she's not learning because I'm not telling her the thought process. And so I'm very aware now of sharing with her the thought process, even for things as simple as this morning, someone was tailgating me and we had to make a quick left turn. And I said to her, I was like, the person behind me is following really close. So instead of making that quick left turn, I'm actually going to pull over right now and allow them to pass me, because that's just safer. Because when I make that quick left turn, they're going to plow into me or something. And, you know, giving that kind of dynamic learning rather than saying it separate from the experience.
Yeah. Or just doing it, right? Just doing it. And then like, it just helps.
Just doing without saying anything.
Yeah. So, right. Exactly. Just sports casting is what I remember.
Interesting. That's a great word for it.
Yeah. That was what the child's care classes that my husband and I took talked about sportscasting way before your kid has language, like telling them what you're going to do, especially when it comes to their bodies, right? It's like, I'm going to pick you up now. I'm going to put my hand under your head, right? So they don't just suddenly, or they're just not suddenly in the air, right? And going like, what's happening? Right. So even though you think, oh my goodness, your kid doesn't understand you, they don't have language. They're 2 weeks old, right? That kind of thing. But we continue to do that through his toddlerhood, you know, and so forth. And just telling him like what we were going to do with him before we did it, or while we were doing it, or like, oh, I'm doing this. And like, I did get to the point where like, I sometimes kind of felt like I was like hosting a cooking show, and I was, you know what I mean? Like, because I was like, I was almost constantly talking about what I was doing, but I feel like it helped him orient himself in the world. This kid wound up being very verbal. I don't know if that was,
he's so verbal.
He's super verbal, you know, and I didn't do it as much with my second child just because, you know, my attention was super split, you know, and we did do sports casting with him, especially when it came to his body, but I didn't do it as much like in my everyday as I had with my first kid, because, you know, I only had one person's attention that I had to, you know, capture.
Right,
yeah, exactly. So, but that's really great what you're talking about now too, about like, because, you know, next thing we know, Alegre, they're going to have permits. Like, wow.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm starting to do this. But the other thing that's good about what we're doing about in terms of telling the kids all the steps that go into planning the holidays or their costume or whatever, is we're also by saying to them, hey, I need you to do this so that mommy can plan, so that mommy's not stressed, so that mommy has time to take all that into consideration. We're helping them learn appropriate communication for their future life. Like, let's say, for instance, they have a job and their coworker or boss or whatever comes to them with a project. Rather than just saying, yep, I'm going to do this, they'll be able to say, well, you know what, I need more time to do that thing. They'll realize that it's appropriate to ask for more time.
100%.
Advocate for their needs. So you're teaching important life skills by doing these little things that actually take care of you too.
Absolutely. And like you said, that for the future as well, like a friend of mine just sent me this TikTok with a person, her name's Elizabeth Ward, and this TikTok was all about the invisible load, which is kind of what I started the conversation with today. So I'm just going to read you the second half of what she has here. She goes, let's stop assuming that every part of managing the household is a woman's responsibility to begin with. So she's speaking very much on like the whole like mom math, right? Like this mom or mom burnout, and how let's normalize that these tasks are tasks that anyone can do, and women aren't like born with the ability to do this better than others. But what you're talking about is like, if you communicate what it takes to do any of these things, not only does it have them go, oh wow, lots happening that I'm not aware of, but it also gives them agency around like, oh, I can, I mentioned pay up as well. I can do these things too. I'm capable of doing these things. My mom showed me, she modeled these to me. My dad modeled them too. My dad did these things too, you know, and they also brought me in on the process. You know, and so she says, let's stop assuming that every part of managing the household is a woman's responsibility to begin with, and start having open, honest conversations early on about what mental parts of managing the household can be redivided. And then she gives an example. My husband and I did the fair play deck at the beginning of the school year and decided that he would be in charge of school forms and extracurriculars. And she goes on. But so this is interesting, fair play deck. Maybe we should take a look at that and talk about it next week. But, you know, these are tasks that aren't inherently one gender's as opposed to another's, you know, and the idea that these things have to happen on one side of the ledger and are not on the other is antiquated.
Yes. And also too, I think, and maybe this is a future book for us, I also think that one of the first ways you should divide up household tasks is by what do you like to do?
What do you like to do?
There are things everyone likes to do. Like my husband loves to vacuum.
Same. So does mine. Loves it. In fact, so, I told him,
it's his happy place. And me cooking, I love to cook. It's my happy place. I don't feel any need to take that, you know, to give that over to anyone, to share that, whatever. I do share it with my child just so she can learn skills.
Right.
But it's not because she's a female. I would do that with any child that I have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last night I started dinner and then I had a client. There was about like maybe 5 to 7 minutes left to finish off the dinner, but I had to go upstairs and get on with the client. And my 10-year-olds come over and I'm like, this is where we are in the recipe. Have at it. Like, you finish up dinner. And he finished up dinner. I got done with my session and I came down and dinner was ready. It looked great. He did a great job, you know, but I just handed it over. I was like, I've got to go upstairs and get on my Zoom. And the 10-year-old was like, because we've done it before, because I had him in on it. I was like, and I felt confident, like I can leave him with 3 burners going and blah, 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 and everything, you know, and he was, and because my older son was in a guitar lesson, so he wasn't gonna be able to help. And so the 10-year-old came in and finished up. The alternative, either I get on light with my client or I stop everything. It sits there for 45 minutes and then I come back down and finish it later. You know what I mean? So get those kids up on get them in those skills, you know. And
I just think it's a not positive part of American culture that people will constantly use as an out. That's not my job. And it's like, there's lots of things, like for instance, my family, when we go to a park or a beach, we pick up 3 pieces of trash minimum. That's just part of our family culture. It's not our job, but we appreciate a litter-free beach. And guess what? It's really kind of no one's job. And so we should all do it. And actually at jury duty, I have been taking so many pictures of upkeep that's required. And I have filed about 7 reports with, for those who live in Los Angeles, if you dial 311 on the phone, you get connected to a city operator, but there's also an app.
Yeah.
I have uploaded about 7 different reports to 311 about deferred maintenance that needs to happen. I mean, look, I'm just going to show you right now.
Yeah.
Look at the parking structure. Look at that. Look at that ceiling.
That is scary.
Does that inspire trust?
That's scary looking. Yeah.
Right? It's so degraded. And so I also sent an email to the mayor. That's not my job. But you know what? We all need to do it.
I do it too on my walk with my dog. If I see like a leaking,
Thank you, she said, the world needs more moms like you ladies.
Oh, that's nice. I do the same. I have my 311 app and I'm like, oh, that's a leaky pipe. That thing, especially in LA, like water usage and water waste is, you know, but yes, I'll do that too. Like I saw a power line that was like hanging like super low, like if I jumped a little bit, I could have touched it, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And it's like, you can't just assume that somebody's going to take care of that.
No.
You can't just assume that that's being handled, you know?
Let's do away with the whole, it's not my job mentality, because I think it's a really dangerous. I mean, there's studies that show that if a bunch of people are a witness to, let's say a crime, we could also say a medical emergency or whatever. If a bunch of people are a witness to it, almost nothing gets done because everyone's like, well, someone here will do it.
Right.
But if it's only one person who witnesses this thing, they will tend to jump in because no one else is around. It's like, oh, it's their job.
Right.
Let's just all take responsibility for what we see. Like, it's happening in front of you. Therefore, it's part of your responsibility. It just is.
Right. And just to be clear, like Allegra's not saying that, like, you know, those invisible things that are automatically assumed to be your job, you can make a boundary and be like, this is not my job, right? Like, it's not my job description. Your boss is like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Like, you can say when things are not your job, like just to be clear.
Yes, thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, because like you are absolutely can put a boundary down for if somebody's trying to get you to do unpaid work. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know, so
we're talking about the whole thing at home where other people say it's not my job in order for often moms, often women to pick up that invisible labor.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if you've got more than one kid, you know, that's not my sock. That's his sock. That's blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care whose sock it is. It is a sock. It's not in the hamper. I don't care whose sock it is, because guess what? If you don't pick it up and he doesn't pick it up, I wind up picking it up. It becomes mine. So just, you know, like, or their dishes, like whatever, they've got drinks out on the coffee table. That was his. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guess what? Mommy winds up picking it up otherwise. So since you're bringing your cup to the dishwasher, bring his too.
And good for you for taking the time to say that to them, because so many of us opt for, oh, it's just faster for me to just throw it in the dishwasher.
100%. It is.
But if you do that, then they'll never learn.
Yeah, it is faster. It's way faster for me to do it. Yeah, 100%. I am so glad that you're able to jump on with us today. This is great.
Yes, with this limited light. That's one thing.
Oh.
It's really nice light, I feel.
It is. You look, I was like, girl, her skin looks good. Her skin's on point. Yeah, and like my ring light broke yesterday, so I'm like turning my face towards the window, but I'm not like I'm not like like the Joker or Two-Face. Yeah. So
well, hopefully next week I'll be joining you all the normal way.
Yeah, fingers crossed that you're not in jury duty this time next week. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing your civic duty, Allegra. We appreciate it, and all the 311 reports you're making it a better, safer city for us Angelinos.
And thank you all for joining us, and join us again next Thursday at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, where we chit chat about what we've got going on and check out our website, bywdreams.com. Our newest book, Rock Your Holidays, just came out and it's 99 cents.
99 cents, and helping you, the magic maker, also have a magical time this holiday season.